We all have these big goals, right? But sometimes it feels like there's this invisible force that's just holding us back. But what if that force isn't some external thing? What if it's actually an architect that we designed ourselves? Well, in this explainer, we're going to learn how to read its blueprints so you can finally take back control.
So let's just start right there with a really direct question. Take a second and really think about it. Are you the architect of your own setbacks? I know, it's a tough one, but being honest with yourself right here, that's the absolute first step toward making a real change.
And that's really the whole point. You just can't fix what you can't see. That's why we're going to think about this differently, not as some flaw in your character, but as a hidden pattern, an unseen architect. Our whole job here is to just shine a big spotlight on its design.
So, what are we even talking about when we say self-sabotage? Well, it's basically a pattern of behavior that gets in your own way. And here's the kicker. A lot of the time, it's happening totally unconsciously. But what I want you to really notice on this slide is the reframe. This is not a flaw, it's a signal. Spotting it is a powerful act of discovery, not a reason to beat yourself up.
Okay, so now that we know what it is, we can officially begin our investigation. It's time to put on our detective hats and start looking for the clues that self-sabotage always leaves behind.
So, clue number one, it's probably hiding on your long-lost to-do list. What are those big, important goals you've been carrying around for years, but you never, ever seem to actually start? Go ahead, think of one right now.
And this is exactly why those goals are so important. They aren't just forgotten dreams collecting dust. No, they are active signposts. They point directly to where your deepest desires live, which, surprise, surprise, is almost always the exact same place that self-sabotage has set up camp to keep you safe and playing small.
All right, on to clue number 2, procrastination. But let's get more specific. Which are the big decisions that you're just not making? You know the ones you just circle and circle in your head, burning all this mental energy but without ever actually moving forward.
This quote from the source material is so important because it just reframes everything. That indecision you feel, it's not you being lazy. It's your brain pulling off a safety maneuver. It's trying to protect you from the fear of change, or the fear of being wrong, or, get this, even the fear of what might happen if you succeed.
And believe me, the clues just keep on coming. That persistent lack of motivation, even for stuff you know is important, that's a signal. Repeating the same kind of failure over and over again, that's not a flaw, that's data. Constantly frustrating the people around you or letting all those tiny, nagging little tasks pile up into a mountain, all signals. With every one, you're basically building a map of the architect's hidden blueprints. So here we get to the most crucial point of all. Once you start spotting these signals, the first temptation is always to criticize yourself, right? But that is a total trap. The real breakthrough, the game changer, comes when you shift your mindset away from criticism and into genuine curiosity.
Just look at this comparison. Asking why am I like this? It leads straight to shame, and it keeps you stuck right where you are. But asking, what specifically trips me up here? That turns you from a defendant into a scientist. Shame leads to inaction, but curiosity, that leads to data. And data is what you use to experiment and figure out what actually works.
Okay, so we've done our detective work, we've gathered the clues, now it is time to build our action plan. Think of this next part as your practical, hands-on toolkit for dismantling the architect's work piece by piece. And your very first tool is something called a sabotage log. The whole goal here is to take those vague feelings of, ugh, I don't wanna, and turn them into concrete, real-time evidence. We're gonna make the invisible visible.
In this slide shows you just how simple and practical this log can be. You just identify a trigger, like a big project brief landing in your inbox, then you note your usual reaction, feeling overwhelmed and checking email, and then you define a better micro step. And notice how small it is. It's not finish the project, it's just open the doc, write one sentence. This is how you start turning that data into real action. So all in all, your toolkit has 4 main parts. We're going to learn how to craft those tiny little interventions, how to reframe slip-ups as just being experiments, how to bring in a little accountability, and most importantly, how to tie all our actions back to what we truly value. So let's be super clear on what a micro-intervention is. This is not about having some heroic level of willpower. Not at all. It's about having a small, pre-planned action ready to go for when a trigger you know about shows up. So if starting a big project always paralyzes you, your intervention is just a simple 5-minute ritual to get the file open. That's it. It sounds small, but trust me, it breaks the spell.
And when you do slip up, because you will, we all do, this quote right here is your new mantra. The goal is calibration, not perfection. Every single misstep is not proof that you're a failure. It's just feedback. It's data that you can use to adjust your strategy for next time. This one idea completely removes the shame and builds up your resilience like nothing else.
All right, we've gone through the theory, we've diagnosed the problem, and we've looked at the tools. Now, it's time to actually put it all into practice with a really simple 2-week challenge. Consider this your mission.
That's it. Just 14 days. This is not some lifelong, overwhelming commitment. It's a short, focused experiment. The goal is to gather some real-world data and start building momentum. Come on, anyone can do something for 2 weeks.
So, here are your 2 super concrete steps. First, for the next 14 days, you're going to keep that sabotage log. Every single day, just know one trigger and decide on one tiny micro step you'll try to take tomorrow. Second, sometime this week, make one specific commitment public. Tell a friend, a partner, a colleague. That little bit of external accountability, it makes a huge, huge difference.
And let's just end with this really important reminder. None of this is about shaming yourself into being more productive. It's about being a detective for your own mind, clearing away the fog of all those unconscious habits so that you can finally start to act with real, genuine intention.
Which really only leaves us with one final question. Once you take the blueprints away from that unseen architect of self-sabotage, and you finally put them back in your own hands, what will you choose to build?